Well, those years were brought to an end after about, I would say 10 years. My husband's uncle had to give up his business. The wholesale market in Chicago was shrinking. There were not enough operators who knew how to make clothes anymore. We lost our immigrant labor that had a good work ethic. They became middle class, and their places could not be filled easily. Wholesale manufacturers began to go into the South and overseas. So the market dwindled until there was almost no business in Chicago anymore. And my husband had to find a new vocation, a new way to earn a living. Well, we thought about going into some kind of a business. I had dreams that my husband would find something that he was really cut out for. He should have been, his original dream, a research scientist. He was a person who liked to work alone. He was not cut out for the rumble of the business world. He was an avid reader and had a bent for science. Well, we considered medical school, which was what he was actually preparing for. Oh no, he said, that's going to be too long and too hard. Then we thought of pharmacy. Oh, he could do that, he thought, with two hands behind his back, because he had so much chemistry and all. And then I had the ambitious idea we could open a drugstore while he was going to school, and we would have a built-up business by the time he came home. It so happened in the neighborhood that we lived was just developing rapidly. And just down the street, there was only one little store amongst all these new homes. It was a grocery deli store, and they sold newspapers and cigarettes and all those other things. There were lines in front of this store waiting to get in because it was the nearest place where you could get convenience food or newspapers and things like that. I had the idea that we could buy a lot in this open block and put up a drugstore, and we would hire a pharmacist, and by the time Buddy got finished with his studies, he would have a business to operate. And I would work the store. Well, when my third child was born, the store was already going up when I was pregnant. And when she was about 3 or 4 months old, we opened the store. It looked like it was going to be a going business pretty soon because the neighborhood was ready for it. And then my husband enrolled in school at the University of Illinois. He was commuting, I was working days, he was working nights. It was very hard for him to get his studies in, and we found that wasn't working too well. He was afraid that if he flunked out, he'd never get into another school, and that would be the end. So he transferred to the only place that seemed tenable, and that was in Big Rapids, Michigan, Ferris Institute. Well, that meant we have to have 2 cars. We have to have somebody at home to take care of the children, and pharmacists day and night in the drugstore. It's a big payroll. But we struggled through it, and we did it. And he graduated. It was a time of great deprivation for all of us. I was with my children much less than I wanted to be, even though I came home for lunch every day and dinner. I was open from 9 to 9. I was deprived of my husband was deprived of his wife. We were deprived of a lot of niceties because of the economy. Well, when he finished school, we had a big party. The newspaper came, interviewed and took pictures. Neighbors came bearing gifts. Everybody was congratulating Buddy that he made it. And the business was going pretty well. And he took the examinations and got his license. There was nobody who walked with a jauntier step than Buddy. And 6 weeks after he got his license, he collapsed with an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm. And in 16 days, he was gone. Well, people tried to comfort me, you know, and I said, but he realized his dream. Not many men live to realize their dream, but he realized his, and therefore his life was successful and complete. And that's how I comforted myself. The going was tough. I was exhausted. But I was smart enough to know that I should not make any life-changing decisions until at least a year had passed, because I knew anything that I would decide to do right then and there might be an emotional decision. So I waited. It was a tough year, but then I got advice about brokers who handled sales of drugstores, legal advice, real estate advice, and I took it and put the store up for sale and sold it almost immediately. I didn't want to stay in Waukegan. I just felt all my married friends, I was the third wheel. I didn't want their sympathy. I didn't want their patronizing me. And I felt I just needed a clean slate, so I decided to move to Highland Park. One of the main reasons I chose Highland Park was for the schools. Waukegan High School was on the verge of losing its accreditation.